Recording. Okay. I was not a teacher during COVID, so share screen. That looks right. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about unethical teacher behaviors. And among these are going to be inappropriate relationships, which includes teachers participating in sexual relationships with students, social networking with students, inappropriate friendships, and as well as cheating and academic misconduct, which includes teachers cheating and aiding students on state assessments, assigning false grades, and favoring some student grades over others. So first thing is the inappropriate sexual relationships between students and teachers. So statistics show that 10% of children experience sexual misconduct by a school official before they graduate, which 10% means, to put it into perspective, would be about 1 in 10 children and 4.5 million students. So 10% does not seem like a lot, but 4.5 million students, putting it into that perspective, is a lot, and this percentage needs to be 0. Research also shows that educators that participate in sexual relationships with students target those who may not have a good home life. Maybe they have less parental supervision at home. And it also shows that students with disabilities are the target more often than students without disabilities. Among these statistics, 96.5% of school officials that committed sexual misconduct were males, and 3.5% were females. However, these numbers are starting to change, and it is there are more cases of female educators performing sexual misconduct than there are male. So this is starting to change. And then 23% of undergraduate students across a survey of 27 universities reported experiencing sexual misconduct, and 11.7% of these reports were non-consensual. So we know that the age of consent in Alabama is 16, but that is not for students. Students cannot consent, and under the guidelines for consent, especially in the state of Alabama, so since the age is 16, like I said, that does not constitute for students in high school. So in terms of students, the age of consent is 19. So students in university essentially could consent, but that behavior is still unethical. And 11.7% of these were non-consensual. And I didn't even put that these were non-consensual for the school age children because they are not able to consent in the first place. Okay, so what the numbers say, these numbers are starting to go up drastically because in the years 2015 to 2016, there were 9,649 incidents reported, and this has gone up 55%. And in 2017 and 18, these numbers were 14,938 incidents. And about 30 of these stem from social media. So about 30% of these numbers stem from social media. And as the rise of social media, as social media has gotten more popular, we see these numbers start to go up because 83% of students have their own cell phone by middle school. More than half of students have 1 or more social media accounts by the time they're 12, and 70% of teens hide their online activity from their parents. So that is why we see these numbers start to go up, because educators and students who participate in inappropriate relationships may think that they're being private or secretive or discreet by using social media, but in fact, that is not the case. Okay, so in terms of state assessments, in a recent investigation in Georgia, in 2011, 180 educators were found to have manipulated state test scores, so they would change answers or even give answers to students during the tests. In 2014 in Philadelphia, teachers were charged, as well as the principal, with providing answers to students during the tests. So there were some educators who were found guilty, while some could not be proven guilty, because some educators who were accused of giving answers had more erased wrong answers in their classroom that were changed to right answers. So they noticed that teachers or students in these particular teachers' classes that were giving the test had changed a lot of their wrong answers to right answers. So this is how they were able to pinpoint who was participating in giving out these answers. And the principal was also involved in it by encouraging the teachers to do it. Okay, next, passing failed students. So this goes back to what I said in the beginning about favoring certain grades over another. Students seem to fail classes in every school every year, but the number of students that actually fail the class versus the number of students who statistically fail the class do not line up. Some teachers do pass students that are undeserving, maybe because they don't want that student in their class again, or because they were encouraged to do so by a principal or by the district. So a lot of times it is because of a strong recommendation by the school principal or the district. And it is the pressure that some teachers feel to pass students. That is where the majority of these cases come from. So one incident was Michael Pleasant taught economics at Hamilton High School, and he stated that he felt pressure to pass students. And there was one incident where he had a student stop showing up halfway through the semester, yet somehow the student passed because administration had assigned a passing grade to the student. So he started speaking out about that instance because he did not pass the student and did not want the community or teachers to think that he was the one that gave that grade. So why do schools and teachers pass undeserving students? Well, this goes into schools just do not want a failing grade. So when we see that recommendation of principals or districts giving a recommendation to pass a student, it is mostly stems from the fact that they don't want a failing grade. Star athletes, we see this happen a lot. Maybe they are an up and coming rising athlete that is on track to earning a scholarship to a university, or they seem very promising in terms of athletics, so they could lose their scholarships, and teachers are encouraged to pass these students as well. And we've seen many cases of this one. Some teachers do not want some students back in their classes. Maybe you've had a bad instance, or you've had bad instances with students, and maybe there are some teachers that just pass them because they don't want them back in their classroom. Teachers don't want to look incompetent in their content. So if students are failing their classes, the principal could fire them and claim that the teacher is incompetent, and teachers don't want to seem incompetent, so they pass their students. They fear retaliation. There's pressure from administration, parents, and the community to pass students, and schools do not want to lose funding. So how to avoid accusations for all of the issues that we just talked about is to only communicate with students in a way that could be documented and proven. So only use your school provided email and never being alone with the student in your classroom. I personally never have a conversation with a student in my classroom. If there is one student that wants to talk, we stand in the doorway so that they're passing by students or faculty, as well as the cameras, can see what we're doing, that I'm never alone in a classroom with my student, to avoid accusations of any type of inappropriate behavior. Not to become friends with students on social media. This just kind of crosses a professional boundary. Don't become too friendly with students. You want to be kind to them, but make sure your students understand the difference between kindness and friendship, and set clear boundaries with your students. Double check the guidelines you must follow when administering a state assessment. So if you are told you cannot aid a student on an assessment if they ask what a word means or something that may seem innocent, you want to make sure you follow all guidelines that are given for that assessment, for that state assessment, so that you are not aiding or seen as cheating in any way. And just do your job teach to the best of your ability, and always try to help students. But if a student just fails your class because they have not shown up, or you have done everything you can to try and help them, then assign them the grade that they have earned. It is not up to you to pass a student for no reason. That is my presentation on unethical behaviors from educators. So does anybody have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well,
That was really great.
You did a
Very
good
informative.
job. Woo!
thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to listen to me give this short presentation.
No worries.